Good morning, DMV. Angie, Ange, and Mike, and welcome to another edition of our Kids in the Community Public Affairs Show. As you all know, it's a long weekend, but it's also a historic weekend because Black Panther dropped and everyone's talking about it. We had our WKYS advanced screening on Thursday, and we were able to bring together our listeners, our educators, and some of our students as well, and it was such an impactful event. And one of my favorite parts about doing the event was I was able to give away 10 tickets to an educator via my Instagram, and I met such an incredible educator that I said, you got to come in and talk to us on my public affairs show. Mr. Holloman, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Mr. Holloman, we were able to have you select some of your students that are at your school, but also in your program, which we're going to talk about your program, to be a part of our advanced screening. Tell the people a little bit about what that meant for you. I know you said you brought all ladies with you, which was a surprise, but tell us why.
So in my program, the We Are All Educators organization, also known as the WAAE, it's a career mentorship program, and I have several students. It's co-ed. So the thing is, though, we have males and females, and with the males and females, the males often get the funding because it's very popular with my brother's keepers and things like that, which is excellent that they're getting the attention. But the young ladies have really been feeling, like they haven't been getting their shot or getting their chance to, get the exposure or get the, resources that the boys are getting. So, every opportunity I can, I want to make sure I treat them to make sure that they know that they are special and that they are, doing the right thing and deserve these things as well.
Absolutely. And you brought 8 amazing young ladies with you. And actually, I saw one of the boys slipped in there, too.
Yeah, he did. So one of the young ladies I didn't want to say anything. One of the young ladies had to drop out at the last minute. And so luckily one of my high-achieving young males was there. Okay. And I was like, you know what, you deserve to come, too. So let me go ahead and grab you and bring you on. He's actually a posse scholar as well.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And it was dope because I don't know if you knew this or you were expecting this in the movie, but there was a lot of girl power in that movie.
A whole lot.
There was a lot of women empowerment behind Black Panther. I almost felt like the women kind of stole the show.
I was going to say the same. Yeah. Because on the commercials, you think it's all about the males.
Yeah.
But then you start watching the movie and you're like, okay, the women are really holding it down. But let's be real. That's how it is in society. Women are the backbone of our society. And in every country, I've lived in various countries. Every country I've lived in, it's really the women that's carrying, a lot of the burden, and then the males are the ones in the front.
It was amazing how many parallel images and things like that, like how parallel the movie is to real life, and some of the messages behind it. So much so that I feel like I got to watch it a couple times.
Oh yeah, I'm going back again.
You going back? Me too. I got to get them money, and I also feel like there were just so many jewels and hidden things, behind hidden themes that I really needed to watch again. Now, one of the students you actually have her shirt on, right?
Yes,
or her
yes.
design.
So this is I'm wearing Akila Johnson's Google or Doodle for Google shirt. She was the winner back in 2000 and I want to say 15, 16.
Yeah, it was like
16,
16
something
I
like
think.
that.
Because she said about 2 years.
Yeah, and she was promoting her shirts and things like that. And it's crazy whenever I wear the shirt, people stop me and say, "Oh, I remember when that happened. Like, I met the young lady." I'm like, "Yeah, that's one of my students, and she's a part of the program, and she's amazing. I mean, she wants to be an educator. She wants to educate, be an African American literature or African American studies teacher. But she also wants to do, her own businesses. She has her own clothing line, which I'm going to shout out later, but I'll shout out right now too. It's called The Evolution of Rags. So you can follow that at Instagram. But she's really a force, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does in the future.
Now I want to back up a little bit and kind of get your story, Mr. Holloman. First up, we'll give everybody your full name. I'm calling you Mr. Holloman.
Right. So so my name is Daryl Holloman, the second actually, but a lot of people know me because I've been an educator for over 10 years, and I DJ, so people need to know me by Mr. Holloman, or Holloman as I've been called since high school, and then DJ Hollow is what people lovingly call me as well, since I am a DJ as well.
Right. And so in all your years educating, I know you actually went to McNamara?
Yes, I went to McNamara, so I graduated class of 2000. Shout out Bishop McNamara class of 2000, the best class ever.
Oh.
I had to say it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna let you finish, but
on paper,
02 might have been the best class.
I have all respect.
All the way around.
Honestly, think honestly that whole decade, I would say from like 95 to 2005, I think that we're really showing as adults,
Yeah.
How powerful of an impact we can make. So,
Absolutely.
that whole time frame, I think that we're really doing our thing. So.
No, you're right. We gonna let that go. We gonna let that go. And what made you get into education? How did you find that path? Maybe after college or after high school.
No, that's an excellent question. So, it's a long story, but I'm gonna make it as short as possible.
Uh-huh.
I've known I wanted to be a teacher since I was 5 years old.
Mm.
Mathematics was always my favorite subject, and for some reason, I guess when I got to high school, I really started getting into like African American history and just history in general, and I didn't really realize it. But once I got to college, I was a business major, but that's a different story. People told me basically I wasn't gonna make any money as an educator, so I went the business route. Listening to people telling me to make money instead of following my heart, and ended up becoming a history major anyway, and then circling back around to being an educator. A few years after graduating. So, honestly, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the career mentorship now is because I know a lot of people don't know at 5 years old what they want to do.
Yeah.
I also know that, even when you have a passion in your heart, a lot of times you follow a different path.
Yeah.
Because, people are telling you, you can't make, money in art, or you can't do this, and you can't do that. And, my philosophy is that if you're following your heart and following your instincts, money will come. You just have to put your passion into it. You'll become the best at whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I was talking to your students about that too. We were talking about that when I came to visit them,
Yes.
and I sent you an article about it as well because that we are in a time where because college is so expensive, it does put and debt is so crippling. Student debt in particular is so crippling. We're seeing that more African Americans are going to school. But a lot aren't completing, and those who are completing tend to major in majors that end up in low-wage jobs or low-paying jobs. And that even when they majored in high-paying majors, they would take the lowest paying job within the major. Right. So if they majored in something like engineering, for instance, they would tend to go into whatever the lowest possible pay is within it. And so there was kind of like this kind of like opening up the minds of young people to say, okay, we do have to factor in, hey, you're going to have X amount of debt that's going to have to be paid back. And how do you best position yourself to be able to pay it back? And some of the stuff we just don't realize you can do that, or you can, you might, like you said, you start off in one thing and then you realize, oh man, I'm actually really good in something else. So I do think it is kind of that balance of passion and paper in a way.
Absolutely.
But I do agree with you. You should always chase your passion over the paper.
Right.
And I guess either way you circle back around.
Circle back around. And what I was going to say too is that part of the philosophy of the program is that, for instance, I'm a Peace Corps volunteer, or returning Peace Corps volunteer as they call them, and I didn't know anything about Peace Corps because it wasn't exposed in my community. But I think the exposure to different occupations, like you said, you thought radio was like, something fun to do, and it wasn't like a real job. But, when you were younger.
Yeah.
And the reality is, the exposure is what I'm trying to give to the students so they can realize, I do like to do this, or like this might be interesting. I didn't know it was something that can be done, and actually expose them, because the access and resources are the things that we're lacking in our community.
Absolutely.
And, trying to expose them to those
and that exposure, and you're doing that. I mean, I think you're doing an incredible job. Tell us how you were able to create We Are All Educators. How did that come about? And tell people a little bit about We Are All Educators.
Okay, no problem. So I'm going to try to speed this story up.
No, you got time.
I got time? Okay,
this our public affairs show. You got time. There's no rush. Yeah.
I feel like, there's so much that I want to say, about this organization, about my students, and all that. But like I said, I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I was in Cape Verde, West Africa. Shout out to Cape Verde, or Cabo Verde. And, in the middle of the night, I woke up and just started writing out these plans. I had been having a conversation with other volunteers about our education system, and my whole point was that during these conversations was that we have a gap in education, which is the career readiness portion of it.
Right.
We tell kids to go to college. That's great. Then they get there and they're like, now what? Like,
exactly.
I made it. And what do you want me to do? And so if we're not preparing them for careers or exposing them to careers and then having them have a plan before they get to college, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're ending up with some of these majors.
Yeah.
I know as a football player, I played for Temple. Most of my, teammates, a lot of them did kinesiology or, just did things like dealing with sports or with the body. And not that there's anything wrong with those majors, but the problem is, was that really their passion?
Right.
Did they really have exposure? Were they just told, you do this a lot, so why don't you just go into this?
Yeah.
And so when I started writing down these plans, it took me 10 years. I was actually in a whole other country. I'm at Micronesia living with my wife, and I finally had time to sit down and say, you know what, I'm going to do this plan. I've been in the education system. I realized that what I said 10 years plus ago needed to happen, and I can't wait any longer to do it. So we are all educators is actually the theme that I have in my classroom. I've had it since day one because my philosophy is that, when students come in the classroom, it's not just about me being an educator. We're all educating each other. We all come in with a body of knowledge that we can share with each other and then grow our collective intelligence. And so it's funny, when I came up with this mentor program, I was like, man, what's the name going to be? And I was like, you know what? The acronym actually says like the way, so I can use that.
That's dope.
WAAE. So it's a play on words. And I have a lot of people that are like, you're an educator, like I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you do, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You can educate somebody else on what you do, and we can, expand on that and make that your contribution as being a mentor, or at least sharing that knowledge with somebody else.
Nice. Once again, if you just locked in, our WKYS Kissing the Community Public Affairs show, talking to my man D. Hollow, a.k.a. Mr. Holloman, an educator at Eastern Senior High School, and we're talking about his organization. We are all educators, and I couldn't agree more. A lot of people think an educator is like an official teacher, like you get, you get your certifications and things like that. But I love that the theme, like you said, way, showing people the way, that is what an educator does, right? And we can all be educators in our own way. So how, if someone wants to join your organization, or they're hearing this and they're like, hey, I want to get down with I like what he's saying, I want to get down with that. How do people follow your movement, join your movement, and learn more about it?
So absolutely. So, I'm going to keep it 100% transparent. This is a brand new organization. We've only been in operation a little over a year, so about a year and a half or so. And I've started at Eastern High School because that's where I am a teacher. I'm actually registered under DCPS schools, so I am, a legitimate organization.
You're legit? Okay,
legit.
So meaning we can support you, we can give you donations and get a tax write-off. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Actually, my tax write-off letters are just going out in the mail. So, please feel free. I will say, so the best way to contact me is to contact me by email. So that would be wearealleducators@gmail.com. Very simple. So wearealleducators@gmail.com. We also have for our social media right now, we're just doing an Instagram. So it's at We Are All Educators on Instagram as well. Once again, at We Are All Educators on Instagram. We do have a website coming soon. Actually, the kids actually put together a website, which is really good. I just want to touch it up a little bit to make it a little bit better.
Gotcha.
But no, they did an excellent job. They were my interns for SYP, and that's one of the things they worked on. Yeah, we were talking about that summer youth employment. The application is currently out. Y'all better hurry up and apply if you haven't already. Summerjobs.dc.gov. But you were actually a site host, so you were able to pay your students to kind of do some work and stay in an environment under you, right? Absolutely. So I want to shout out DOES in a very serious way. In our business marketing plan, one of the things that we wanted to do, in our business plan, one of the things that we wanted to do was provide summer interns, and we were like, how are we going to get this money? And when I found out I could be a host for SYEP, that changed the whole game for me, and it really allowed me to bring in about 15 students last summer and have them be my interns, and we did all kinds of stuff. So we went to various different people's work sites. Shout out to a few people, the fire department, Hakeem Carroll, thank you for hosting my kids, and Robert Wingfield at the Boys Village, who is a psychologist. He's also one of my board members. Nice. United Negro College Fund, shout out Melissa Jordan, one of my board members. Nice. We went to all these different sites, and we went to more than that as well, just to see people at work and seeing what they do, and giving the students an opportunity to really, get an inside scoop. Because a lot of times we're like, I want to be an OBGYN. It's like
Right.
they just deliver babies, and OBGYNs will tell you that's
Right.
not just what I do.
There's a lot to it, and a lot of schooling with it too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we did those things, but they also had specific jobs. So I find out what they wanted to do or things that they're thinking about doing is their desired career, and then I created projects around that so they could work on those projects and kind of get some experience in that field. Just some loose experience, and then I connect them with a mentor in that field as well, and then so they can kind of talk to somebody about, what path they're going to take, the way.
What way? We are all educators. Again, D. Holloman in here, Mr. Holloman. Let me ask you. I've been asking different educators that I sit and talk with. You've seen the news as far as students passing in DC public schools, and you're in the school system. In fact, you're in DC public school system. But then we see a lot of bad news when it comes to our students and some of the things that are going on. But it's like when I went to meet your students, I mean, they had their own businesses, they had direction, they had, they had a plan. They were very, energetic about school and excited to be there. What is your perspective just from being a teacher and being a teacher in DC public schools? What do you kind of notice with our students that we could all be kind of doing a little bit better on all the way around?
All right, so hopefully Angie's question does not get me in trouble.
I don't think so. But, I ain't to look. We're not trying to get nobody in trouble, but I do feel like when I look at all of the things that I'm seeing,
it's negative.
Yeah. There's a lot of negative, but then I go into these schools and I see a lot of positive. Now that's not to say there's not any negative, but I also believe, and we spoke about this with I think North Star Boys Academy, which is that pretty much everybody seems to be overwhelmed when it comes to resources and helping these young people. Everyone, there's this overwhelmed sense, and so I feel like within the village we need some backup systems, right?
Absolutely.
We need some other people to join in, but there are people on the outside looking in that want to help and don't know how.
Right.
Or they want to provide a certain resource, or they may know something, or they may have a level of expertise, but they don't know how to provide it. So, I want to get the educators' experiences on what they see in the schools, and what can the village do a little bit better to help support these young people.
All right, so I'm going to answer this question the best way that I can.
Okay.
One, students in general, most students want to be educated. They want to have a safe place where they can go and learn.
Okay.
And when any part of that is disrupted, some students kind of fall off, and we get some of those negative aspects from there. But in my experience, students are students. I've taught at private school, I've taught at public school. Sometimes the environment is a part of that reason where we might get some of those negative, that negative reports and things like that. But the core sense of the students, I have great kids, I have some amazing students, and I continue to teach, or I continue to be in the classroom because of these students. Most teachers will tell you, we come to school for the students, not for everything else that kind of surrounds it.
Yeah.
And so, I think that as a village, we need to make sure that, one, we have the passion to come in and help these students and not look from afar and say, oh, this is a lost generation.
Right.
Oh, I can't stand these kids these days, because I know a lot of times, I'll say this, when I was at Temple in Philly, I didn't want to be a teacher because I go on the train and kids were acting crazy. And I was like, I don't think I want to teach anymore. But the reality is, once, like you said, I step in the classroom, and it takes a minute. They have to learn to trust you, because there's a lot of students who, don't, they get people coming in and out of their lives. They don't, that you have to be a stable source of, a stable person in their experience. And so, but I also think that we as a system, the system itself, needs to be able to be more open to allowing credible organizations and people to come in and help these students.
Right.
I also have always said that I think that we need more parenting programs, to be honest with you. And that goes deeper, than just, what we're talking about on the surface. But, let's just be real. I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in, the crack era in DC. And so now we're becoming parents and we're having kids, and some of the stuff that we never dealt with is now being passed on to our children. And so, like there's some brokenness there, and we need to kind of heal and have some real parenting classes to help us realize that one, children aren't necessarily our friends as much as we need to be parents to them. And so, and I know I skirt that line even as being a teacher, because I'm always seen as like a big brother or something like that.
Mr. Holloman, they like hanging with you.
I know, but you got to strike that balance, because the respect has to be there, and they got to understand what the respect means. Because respect back when we were in school was not the same as respect is now. Yeah. And I keep trying to bring that home. So I hope that kind of answered the question a bit. But
absolutely,
that's a huge question. There's a lot that I would want to say about it.
It is, but I just want to hear from people that are on the front lines, because again, when you see these stories, everybody weighs in. Everybody who don't have nothing to do with most of it has the most to say, or retweet or repost. And I like to just have the educators who are on the front lines kind of speak to what they see in their classrooms and what needs work. And it's interesting that you say the parenting classes. I remember years ago I was doing something with College is Cool, and I had a parent who raised her hand and said, "Are there resources for parents? Like, I need help." And she was very honest about it, but it made me think completely different, that parents are looking for some support as well, to be because they're trying to figure it out too.
Definitely.
So I think that's a good suggestion. Again, Mr. Holloman, thank you so much for hanging out with me.
No problem.
Coming through. We are all educators. Anything else you want to say about your organization before we get out of here?
Definitely, yeah. So I just want to say, one, I'm all about partnerships and things like that. So if anybody wants to talk about some collaborations, I think that we build these bridges, especially amongst these organizations that are all trying to do similar core things. Then maybe we can build this network that we can actually do more good work in our communities. I do want to also say, like, financing these organizations, including mine, is very important. Because without the money, we can't really do what we need to do to support these students in our community. Also, I want to just shout out Mr. Douglas for being a great part of this organization. He's also with EMOC. Also want to shout out my board as a whole, volunteers, mentors, the donors, and especially all the students and mentees in my program. So definitely, follow me once again at We Are All Educators, or email me at wearealleducators@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Ange. I appreciate everything you do in the community. And,
absolutely.
I am secretly a fan, so now you know.
It's all love, Holloman. I appreciate you, and again, I plan on coming back, because I thought your students were just so cool, and I learned a lot talking to them. I learned about urban gardens. I found their new line, their clothing lines, and everything.
Yes. Shout out Mixed Greens.
Yes, we gotta shout out Mixed Greens. She's and I love the passion that they have for what they do too. I think that's important, like being able to strike that passion in a young person to say, like, this is what I believe in. This is what I'm about. This is what I like. This is what I represent. That takes, someone like yourself being there for them, supporting them, and helping guide them. So,
thank you.
That's why I always try to look out for my educators, because y'all gotta be everything to a whole lot of people.
Day parents.
Day parents, is that what it's called? Again, we are all educators. Support what they're doing. Before I let you go, to Holloman, where do you see, or in your bigger picture, your ultimate vision of We Are All Educators, what is your ultimate goal that you hope to accomplish with the program?
So thank you very much. I almost forgot to mention this. So I'm gonna speak it into existence. The next thing we're going to be working on in a big way is also reaching PG County. I'm DC born, partially DC raised, and then I moved to PG for the rest of my upbringing, and working on building a community center to help bring it to the masses. I mean, honestly, I want We Are All Educators to be something that is a nationwide organization, maybe even international, since I have connections in other places. But definitely, a place that not only serves high school students, but all the way through adults, giving everybody the resources for the careers they want, desired careers. More than 50% of people are unhappy with their jobs. And so we need more happiness so that we can build better communities. We can all be happy in the streets,
Absolutely.
With each other.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. And it takes that exposure to careers, and it takes, a plan. like you said, most importantly. So thank you for all that you do, Holloman.
Thank
Shout
you.
outs to Eastern Senior High School.
Yes.
Shout outs to We Are All Educators. Follow their movement. Follow them on everything. We are all educators. And on that note, this concludes our Kids in the Community Public Affairs show. Angie, and Mike, I'm out of here. I catch y'all on Monday. And don't forget to go see Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Okay? That's right. Support. We gone. It's KYS. Thank you so much.
Thank you.